You'll never guess where the wind industry started here in the United States. You and I have an insatiable appetite for electricity. Come with me and we'll look at the issues relative to wind farms and the communities that they serve. This is the Windfarm Guy. Hi, this is Dennis Stout. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Windfarm Guy. Today I am in Mount Vernon, New Hampshire, and with me is Earle Rich. And Earle, thank you for joining me today. Earle has a very interesting background with the wind industry and the beginning of the wind industry here in the U.S. Earle, can you tell me a little bit about the genesis of the project at Crotchet Mountain?
Crotchet Mountain was a cooperation between Public Service of New Hampshire at that time and U.S. Wind Power, and I think that's what they called themselves at the time, to see if putting multiple wind machines on the grid would cause any instability. And what they were interested in seeing was, okay, no power being generated, fed back into the power line, making their meters sort of run backwards. And what they found was that there was no instability whatsoever, that it didn't really make any difference. Them generating like a few hundred kilowatts of power was just exactly the same thing as somebody external turning on a few hundred kilowatts of heating, for example. The power line was the same, grid was the same, no problems whatsoever. So based on that finding, they were able to take those machines, move them out to California, where there was a known wind resource, put them back up, and develop the whole wind industry in the Altamont Pass of California. So it was a good experiment. It didn't last that long here, but it served its purpose, and we're mightily grateful for it.
And now, what was your role back in that day? What part did you play in the wind industry?
Well, I first started on the coast of Maine. I put up a big wind machine, big at that time, next to my house in Scarborough, Maine. Pretty crude, but it did work. I had a 5 kilowatt generator on it, some pretty big sail wing blades. It wasn't connected to the grid, it was just connected to loads in the basement to help heat the house. It's a 60-foot tower, you know, a few hundred pounds of generator and other parts up there. And it worked, but based on that experience I had and the learning, the reading, just learning everything I could about the whole business, I was able to make a pretty good living in wind and solar and other things for the next 15 years or so. So that's where I got started.
All right. Now going back to Crotchet Mountain, it was only there for a little while until they realized, hey, they learned what they wanted to know. Will it be stable or not? And it was stable, and so as you said, they packed everything up and moved it out to California to the Altamont Pass.
Right. A lot of the people went with them, and they did pretty well out there. They had a wonderful time. They made a lot of machines, generating significant amounts of power into the Tesla substation, which powered all of San Francisco and Northern California.
Can you tell me a little bit about the turbines? I mean, they were vastly different than what turbines are today.
Oh yes.
Tell me about those turbines.
Well, for one thing, they were a whole lot smaller.
Right.
You know, this is the sort of thing where you want to creep up into what you really want. So the ones I was involved with were 40 and 70 kilowatts, 3-bladed, of course. But we generated everything 480 volts, 3-phase, and later on we constructed our own grid where we stepped everything up to 21,000 volts, and then later up to 108,000 volts, which was then sent down to the nearby Tesla station. So my role was mostly in the control systems. I understood pretty much the aerodynamics and where a machine should be sited. but the aerodynamics of the Altamont Pass is so good in wind resource that it didn't really matter where you put them, except, you stay out of the little valleys and the, where the houses were, because it's so windy, people didn't want to live anywhere else. But monitoring and controls was really my part of it. But in doing that, I got to work with a lot of other different people. I started doing that with Natural Power company located in New Boston, just up the road here. And we did controls for everybody. So I got a lot of baseline knowledge out of that.
Well, good. Okay, I want to end with one question. If there was something that you wished that the general public knew about the wind industry, what would that be?
Oh boy. You hear a lot of problems with sound, and I never experienced it. You hear problems with bird strikes. All the time I was on the Altamont Pass, we had well over 1,000 machines. We had lots of birds. We had burrowing owls. We had all kinds of birds. The biggest problem we had with them was their nesting in our nacelles. But I never saw one single bird on the ground. High-rise buildings with their big windows were responsible for far, far more kills than any wind farm ever could. Cats, I think, are even more than that.
Right, and that's still true today.
We still love our cats, and we still put up those big high-rise buildings.
That's right, that's right. If you like what we've discussed today, be sure and click like and subscribe below. If there's something that you would like me to address relative to wind farms, please also leave me a comment. Earle, thank you so much for joining me. I
You're
sure
welcome.
appreciate it.
This is fun.
I love the contribution that you've made to the industry, because that was the early days.
That was the leading edge, no question about it.
It was the genesis of the whole thing, and things are now much different, much bigger, and we're making a much bigger difference to our world.
Well, thank you for communicating this out to the world.
All right, thank you. This is Dennis Stout, and I'm the Windfarm Guy. Thank you for watching. Working together, we can make good energy decisions and save our planet. I am the Windfarm Guy.